Hello everybody, this is Whale Hater doing Packet Tracer 2326 for CCNA 4. Alright, this is configuring PAP and CHAP authentication. Now what are those? PAP is a password authentication protocol, and what that does is before an adjacency can be configured or can occur between two routers, they ask each other for the password and the username. And so he'll send R1 would send R3 the username and password. R3 sends the R1's username and password that's been configured previously, and if they match, then the adjacency occurs. And then CHAP is Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol. And we'll get more into that when we start to configure it, but basically it does periodic challenges of the adjacent router. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But that's what we're going to be doing. First of all, the first thing they want us to go through and do is to make sure that the encapsulation method we're going to be using on all of our routers, including the ISP router, is going to be the point-to-point protocol. So we're just going to go through and do that on all the interfaces that have been configured. So that includes, S000 on both R1, R3, and then the S001, R2, R3, and then the S010 on both R3 and then the ISP. So I'm going to do that now. Alright, so interface 000, encapsulation method PPP. Now we are going to copy that for later. Now the reason why it goes down is because to have an up configure. Now the reason why it goes down is because they have to have the same encapsulation method on both routers for them to communicate. It's like they both need to be talking the same language. So we're going to do that now, and you'll see that it comes back up. Oh my goodness. Fat fingers. Give it a second, it'll go back up, because now they're both talking the same language and the adjacency comes back up. There we go. Now let's do that one, encapsulation, and then 010. So that adjacency is back up and going now. Oh my goodness, there we go. Paste. Just going too fast, I think. Okay, so now all the adjacencies are back up and running, or at least they should be. Let's do a quick test. Now, it told us to do a ping test earlier, but we're going to save that for now. First one should fail as it usually does, and then the next three should work. So now we know that we have that working. And okay, all of our point-to-point protocols are working correctly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start setting up the authentication for PAP and CHAP. The first thing we're going to do is, irritatingly enough, is we set our usernames as R3 for R1. Now, I don't think PAP needs that, but maybe it does. CHAP, on the other hand, you need to have the username of the other router that you're trying to connect to. PAP might need it as well. If you guys know better than me, please put it in the comment section below. So let's start with R1. So the username of the device that we're trying to connect to is going to be R3. New secret class, PPP. Oh, hold on. Interface 000 is PPP authentication Authentication, and we're going to be using PAP for this one. Now it's going to go down because it's asking R3, hey, what's my username and password? And R3 doesn't have any clues, and he's not even set up for that, so he doesn't know. That's why the adjacency goes back down. Now we're going to set up the PAP sent username on this guy, and we're going to say for the other router, we're going to use the R1 username and the password as Cisco to log in to create the adjacency on that next router. Now we just have to set up, now all we have to do is set up this same username and password on R3. So R3, let's exit back out of there, regular configuration. We're going to say username R1 secret Cisco. Now let's go to interface 000 PP authentication as PAP. And then the PPP PAP sent, so the stuff he's going to send is R3 password class. Now that adjacency should come back up, and it did, because those two guys are using the correct username and password with each other for their connections. Now we're going to configure this on R2 as well. Now just remember, you're going to be using the username and password of the other router, kind of. So on R3 again, we're going to create a new username, and that's going to be R2. We're going to use the secret. We'll just use the same. We're going to use the same username and password we had before. So let's do Cisco. We'll use Cisco again. Cisco. Then we'll go to interface S001 PPP authentication PAP. Now it's going to go down. Is going to be R3 password class. Oops. Class. No, hold on. No. It's R2 password Cisco. No, I had it right the first time. Okay. I have to do that mental flip in my mind. You know, because we're on R3, we're sending the login information as R3 to the other router, and I just, again, it's just really hard for me to flip this around in my mind. Okay, we're good here now. Let's go over to R2. Let's see. Exit out of here. The username for him is going to be R3. We're going to use the secret class, because that's the login information that R3 is going to be sending to us. Let's go over to our interface that's connected to R3 and use the point-to-point protocol authentication PAP. Not Papa. Sent username is R2 password Cisco. Okay, we did it right. So now the adjacency went back up because they're sending each other, again, the same information. Now with PAP, once again, I'll reiterate that the adjacency has to form after it's been authenticated between the two. So, and that only happens one time. What we're going to use now is we're going to do CHAP, the challenge handshake authentication protocol. So let's go over to, let's see, it looks like we want us to do the internet router first. All right, so host name, we're going to call it ISP. The username we're going to use is R3, and the reason why we have to give it the username is when we're configuring CHAP, I know this for a fact, that when you authenticate to each other, you have to use the username of the other guy. So that's why we give it the username here, secret Cisco. So interface S000 PPP Authentication CHAP. That's the method we're using. Now it's going to go down. We'll go back over to R3 and create yet another username for him to use. ISP secret Cisco. Okay, so now that one's up and we've got our full points. So what happens is for CHAP, it gives periodic challenges to the other router. So it kind of helps prevent attacks. So what happens for R3, all of a sudden in the middle of talking with our ISP router, it'll say, hey, what's my username? And what's the MD5 hash that we're using for the current handshake? And so it has to send that down, and the ISP router says, oh crap. If it's the wrong router, it'll say, well, I don't know, and then the connection will break. So that it keeps attacks from happening for a long time. That's where those periodic challenges happen. But if it has been correctly configured, it'll say, hey, what's my username? And hey, what's the hash value that we've been using currently? And it'll send it off. ISP will say, well, of course, I know your username because it's been configured in my running configuration file and my startup configuration file. So it'll send the username with the hash that it is using, and it'll say, yep, you're authenticated. Yep, we're good. So it'll keep that adjacency full. So that is configuring PAP and CHAP with some explanations on how it works. If you have any other questions, please put them in the comment section below. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all that happy stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.